Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, dubious speculation. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, Bitcoin has gone to new all-time highs. It looks like it hit around $124,000, and now it has been rejected off of that level. And, I was spending some time looking at what happened in 2017 and 2021. And one of the interesting things is how, you'll see Bitcoin sort of slowly grind up. And then once September arrives, it gets that drop to the bull market support band, maybe even a wick below it, right? You can see in 2021, that's what happened, right? So you get this move up. And then in September, you drop back down to the bull market support band. But you can see that as August progressed, it really started to slow down, right? Which seems like is what's happening now. When I was looking at 2017, it was kind of similar, although there was a little bit more strength, right? Bitcoin rallied up and then it wicked to a new high. And then in later August, it then went a little bit higher, but then it still went down to the 20-week SMA in September. So I'm still thinking the most likely outcome is that Bitcoin revisits the 20-week SMA in September. The only question is do we see a little bit more strength between now and then? But the more I was thinking about it, the more it didn't even feel really like what we saw in 2017 and what we saw in 2021. And I had this like nagging feeling that I was feeling somewhat like deja vu, right? Like it feels like this pattern has happened before. And I was looking back, and coincidentally, the thing that matches the time period that I can find that matches this the closest is 2020, actually. And let me show you what I mean. In 2020, Bitcoin also had, sort of a big drop in Q1, right? Kind of like it did here, like a big drop in Q1. And then it rallied, and then it went sideways. And kind of the same thing here, right? It goes up and then it goes sideways. But what you'll notice is that it didn't actually tag the 20-week SMA in the summer, right? In like July, it didn't actually tag it. It got really, really close to tagging it, but it didn't actually tag it. And that's exactly what happened here, right? It got really close to tagging the bull market support band, but it didn't actually drop all the way there. And then following that move, it then rallied up in July and August, and then went sideways, and then dropped in September. You see that? So the pattern is essentially the same thing, right? I mean, again, you could even take a bar pattern, right, on here, and just say, let's take it from, around the April lows. Obviously, it didn't drop as much as it did back then, and you can kind of see, like what I'm talking about, how the pattern is similar. So what I think is, could happen here is I think that there's a decent chance that Bitcoin drops to the 20-week moving average in September, just like it has always done in every post-halving year. September of 2013, September 2017, September of 2021. We've always seen Bitcoin drop to the 20-week moving average in September. But that doesn't mean that it has to immediately drop. If you look at 2020, in fact, this is kind of eerie. So, and again, it's like, how are we not living in a simulation sometimes? But what you'll notice in that 2020 move is that the wick that occurred mid-August around this time, the high was 12,479, right? So 12.4K, 12.4, 12.5. The high we just wicked to was 10 times that, exactly. 124 to 125K. So that is almost the exact same thing. Now, what I'm thinking here, and I'm just being honest how I think this is going to play out, what I think could happen is Bitcoin continues this grind where it doesn't really go anywhere. I know it feels like the world's falling out, the world's caving in today. But really, I mean, Bitcoin has basically been at the same price since early July, just slightly going up. What I'm thinking is you might get a couple more wicks down, but then you'll get a wick a little bit higher, perhaps that last week of August going into September. Not necessarily a new all-time high, but maybe back into the 120s. And the reason why I think you could see that happen in a couple of weeks, like within the next couple of weeks, is because I think before Bitcoin gets the drop to the 20-week moving average, I think something specific needs to happen. And what I think is that I think Ethereum will rally to new all-time highs. Okay, so that's kind of how I see this playing out. I see Ethereum trying to hold on because it's going for all-time highs. And it's sucking liquidity out of every corner of the cryptoverse for it to do that. Look at alt pairs against Ethereum. Alts are bleeding against Ethereum basically every single week. It doesn't matter if you like it. That's what's happening. Don't trade the market that you want. Trade the market that you have. And so Ethereum is taking that liquidity from the altcoin market to try to weather the storm as best it can. Because the reality is that come September, October, ETH is going to be dropping more than likely on its Bitcoin pair to likely a higher low. Like it'll probably be, you say you have a low at 0.017 and then a low at 0.021. You're probably going to see the ETH Bitcoin valuation drop back in September and October. But the reason why it's still holding on right now, and the reason why it's still green for the week, is because it's still absorbing liquidity from the altcoin market in order for whenever Bitcoin goes back up a little bit, Ethereum will likely run to an all-time high. But then after Ethereum runs to an all-time high, what's going to happen? Then the market drops to the 20-week moving average. So that's how I think this is going to play out. Ethereum's going to try to consolidate just below the prior highs. And then probably in the next few weeks, it's going to make that rally to a new all-time high. When it does, it could correspond to potentially a wick like this one, right? Where it like wicks back up a little bit. That's when Ethereum makes the all-time high. Then the market freaks out. Ethereum's not allowed to do that, right? And then Bitcoin drops, taking the market down with it back to the 20-week moving average. That's how I think this is going to play out. It's obviously dubious speculation. I could be wrong. Look at Bitcoin dominance. It's giving you an idea of what's going to happen whenever Bitcoin does drop to the 20-week moving average, right? Dominance is going to start going up. It's up today while Bitcoin is down. But the reason it's not going too much higher just yet is because Ethereum hasn't made that new all-time high. So watch for the market to rotate. The market will likely rotate away from Ethereum and altcoins back to Bitcoin in September. And the reason is more than likely because Bitcoin will have a drop back to its 20-week moving average. That's how I think this is going to play out. Okay, and the reason you're not getting alt season yet is because alt season doesn't occur until after Ethereum makes durable all-time highs. It hasn't even wicked to an all-time high yet. So you don't get alt season before Ethereum makes new all-time highs. And on the first all-time high that Ethereum makes, it's likely not even a durable one, right? It likely gets rejected off the first attempt. So Bitcoin consolidating, it's been going sideways for a little bit. You're likely going to see it try again a little bit later in August to run, but it's ultimately going to drop more than likely in September, and then try to consolidate around there. And again, I'm not suggesting that it's impossible for Bitcoin to put in a new all-time high in August. In 2017, it did, right? It consolidated a little bit in mid-August, and then it still rallied to slightly new cycle highs before dropping in September. But ultimately speaking, I think Bitcoin will have a drop in September. I think it's going to try to hold on until September before dropping to the 20-week moving average. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and again, check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.